Welcome to the Folktale Project. This is Dan Charles. Today we have the final part, Part 3, the epic conclusion of the Fairy Princess of Ergetz. And this story has really had its ups and downs for our protagonist. He has broken a promise, been sent to an island of demons, ended up surviving his encounter with the bloodthirsty demons by promising to help teach the crown prince about the human world, and then he disobeyed the king's orders and ended up getting married to his daughter, getting a palace and jewels. He seems to have lucked his way through the first 2 parts, despite his now clear penchant for breaking oaths. And it's time to figure out what happens to Bar Shalmon in Part 3 of the Fairy Princess of Ergetz. Some years rolled by, and still Bar Shalmon thought of his native land. One day the princess found him weeping quietly. "Why art thou sad, husband mine?" she asked. "Dost thou no longer love me? Am I not beautiful now?" No, it is not that," he said, but for a long time he refused to say more. At last he confessed that he had an intense longing to see his home again. "But thou art bound to me by an oath," said the princess. "I know," replied Bar Shalmon, "and I shall not break it. Permit me to visit my home for a brief while, and I will return and prove myself ever more devoted to thee." On these conditions, the princess agreed that he could take leave for a whole year. A big black demon flew swiftly with him to his native city. No sooner had Bar Shalmon placed his feet on the ground than he determined not to return to the land of Ergetz. "Tell thy royal mistress," he said to the demon, "that I shall never return to her." He tore his clothes to make himself look poor, but his wife was overjoyed to see him. She had mourned him as dead. He did not tell of his adventures, but merely said he had been shipwrecked and had worked his way back as a poor sailor. He was delighted to be among human beings again, to hear his own language, and to see solid buildings that did not appear and disappear just when they pleased. And as the days passed, he began to think his adventures in Fairyland were but a dream. Meanwhile, the princess waited patiently until the year was ended. Then she sent the big black demon to bring Bar Shalmon back. Bar Shalmon met the messenger one night when walking alone in his garden. "I've come to take thee back," said the demon. Bar Shalmon was startled. He had forgotten that the year was up. He felt that he was lost, but as the demon did not seize him by force, he saw that there was a possibility of escape. "Return and tell thy mistress I refuse," he said. "I will take thee by force," said the demon. "Thou canst not," Bar Shalmon said, "for I am the son-in-law of the king." The demon was helpless and returned to Ergetz alone. King Ashmedai was very angry, but the princess counseled patience. "I will devise means to bring my husband back," she said. "I will send other messengers." Thus it was that Bar Shalmon found a troop of beautiful fairies in the garden the next evening. They tried their utmost to induce him to return with them, but he would not listen. Every day, different messengers came, big ugly demons who threatened, pretty fairies who tried to coax him, and troublesome sprites and goblins who only annoyed him. Bar Shalmon could not move without encountering messengers from the princess in all manner of queer places. Nobody else could see them, and often he was heard talking to invisible people. His friends began to regard him as strange in his behavior. King Ashmedai grew angrier every day, and he threatened to go for Bar Shalmon himself. "Nay, I will go," said the princess. "It will be impossible for my husband to resist me." She selected a large number of attendants, and the swift flight of the princess and her retinue through the air caused a violent storm to rage over the lands they crossed. Like a thick black cloud, they swooped down on the land where Bar Shalmon dwelt, and their weird cries seemed like the wild shrieking of a mighty hurricane. Down they swept in a tremendous storm such as the city had never known. Then, as quickly as it came, the storm ceased, and the people who had fled into their houses ventured forth again. The little son of Bar Shalmon went out into the garden, but quickly rushed back into the house. "Father, father, come forth and see," he cried. "The garden is full of strange creatures brought by the storm. All manner of creeping, crawling things have invaded the garden. Lizards, toads, and myriads of insects. The trees, the shrubs, the path are covered, and some shine in the twilight like tiny lanterns." Bar Shalmon went out into the garden, but did not see toads and lizards. What he beheld was a vast array of demons and goblins and sprites, and in a rose bush the princess, his wife, shining like a star, surrounded by her attendant fairies. She stretched forth her arms to him. "Husband mine," she pleaded, "I have come to implore thee to return to the land of Ergetz with me. Sadly have I missed thee, long have I waited for thy coming, and difficult has it been to appease my father's anger. Come, husband mine, return with me. A great welcome awaits thee." "I will not return," said Bar Shalmon. "Kill him! Kill him!" shrieked the demons, and they surrounded him, gesticulating fiercely. "Nay, harm him not," commanded the princess. "Think well, Bar Shalmon, ere you answer again. The sun has set and night is upon us. Think well until sunrise. Come to me, return, and all shall be well. Refuse, and thou shalt be dealt as thou hast merited. Think well before the sunrise." "And what will happen at sunrise if I refuse?" asked Bar Shalmon. "Thou shalt see," returned the princess. "Bethink thee well, and remember I await thee here until the sunrise." "I have answered, I defy thee," said Bar Shalmon, and he went indoors. Night passed with strange mournful music in the garden, and the sun rose in its glory and spread its golden beams over the city. And with the coming of the light more strange sounds woke the people of the city. A wondrous sight met their gaze in the marketplace. It was filled with hundreds upon hundreds of the queerest creatures they had ever seen. Goblins and brownies, demons and fairies. Dainty little elves ran about the square to the delight of the children, and quaint sprites clambered up the light posts and squatted on the gables of the council house. On the steps of that building was a glittering array of fairies and attendant genii, and in their midst stood the princess, a dazzling vision radiant as the dawn. The mayor of the city knew not what to do. He put on his chain of office and made a long speech of welcome to the princess. "Thank you for your cordial welcome," said the princess in reply. "And you, the mayor, and ye, the good people of this city of mortals, hearken unto me. I am the princess of the fairyland of Ergetz, where my father, Ashmedai, rules as king. There is one among ye who is my husband." "Who is he?" the crowd asked in astonishment. "Bar Shalmon is his name," replied the princess, "and to him am I bound by vows that may not be broken." "'Tis false!" cried Bar Shalmon from the crowd. "'Tis true. Behold our son," answered the princess, and there stepped forward a dainty elfin boy whose face was the image of Bar Shalmon. "I ask of you mortals of this city," the princess continued, "but one thing, justice. That same justice which we in the land of Ergetz did give unto Bar Shalmon when, after breaking his oath unto his father, he set sail for a foreign land and was delivered into our hands. We spared his life, we granted his petition for a new trial, but I ask that ye should grant me the same petition. Hear me in your court of justice." "Thy request is but reasonable, princess," said the mayor. "It shall not be said that strangers here are refused justice. Bar Shalmon, follow me." He led the way into the chamber of justice, and the magistrates of the city heard all that the princess and her witnesses, among whom was the rabbi, and also all that Bar Shalmon had to say. "'Tis plain," said the mayor, delivering judgment, "that her royal highness, the princess of the fairyland of Ergetz, has spoken that which is true. But Bar Shalmon has in this city wife and child to whom he is bound by ties that may not be broken. Bar Shalmon must divorce the princess and return unto her the dowry received by him on their marriage." "If such be your law, I am content," said the princess. "What sayest thou, Bar Shalmon?" asked the mayor. "Oh, I'm content," he answered gruffly. "I agree to anything that will rid me of the demon princess." The princess flushed crimson with shame and rage at these cruel words. "These words I have not deserved," she exclaimed proudly. "I have loved thee, and have been faithful unto thee, Bar Shalmon. I accept the decree of your laws and shall return to the land of Ergetz a widow. I ask not for your pity. I ask but for that which is my right. One last kiss." "Very well," said Bar Shalmon, still more gruffly. "Anything to have done with thee." The princess stepped proudly forward to him and kissed him on the lips. Bar Shalmon turned deadly pale and would have fallen had not his friends caught him. "Take thy punishment for all thy sins," cried the princess haughtily, "for thy broken vows and thy false promises, thy perjury to thy God, to thy father, to my father, and to me." As she spoke, Bar Shalmon fell dead at her feet. At a sign from the princess, her retinue of fairies and demons flew out of the building and up into the air, with their royal mistress in their midst, and vanished. And that is the conclusion of the Fairy Princess of Ergetz. And you see, it is as I said on Monday. You shouldn't be surprised by what happens with Bar Shalmon, because he knew, his father told him, that if he traveled across the sea, it would end poorly for him. And he continuously broke promises and vows to his father, to the king, to the princess. I don't condone what happened, but we knew it was coming, didn't we? This is Dan Scholes for the Folktale Project. Don't forget that you can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, Overcast, anywhere you like to get your podcasts. You can follow us on Twitter at Folktale Project. You can find us on Auto Radio, TuneIn Radio, iHeartRadio, Spotify, anywhere you like to listen. You can help support the podcast by heading over to patreon.com/folktaleproject, and you can always head over to folktaleproject.com, where you'll find a new story waiting for you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Next week, it is Christmas week, which means I'll be back next week with 3 new stories of Christmas time, and one annual tradition, and this is my favorite annual tradition, the reading of "'Twas the Night Before Christmas." This will also be our last week of new stories for the year. The following week will be, well, your favorites from the past 12 months as we head into January of 2021. As always, thank you all so very much for listening.